Hi everyone, I'm Rosemary, and today I'm going to help you finish painting this candy cane house. You have the choice of doing it either in the black, which you could see on the bottom it started out with black and then all the colors are put over the top, or you can do it a simpler way in the all blue. You put it on the whole house and then we dry brush white over it and there's just a little glitter and snow. A lot easier. They're both pretty. I know the majority of the people chose to do it in the colors. I like both of them. I think they're both pretty. I do my dining room in Christmas time in blue, silver, and gold, and so this would fit perfectly in there. So depending on where you're putting it, it can look good either way. So you have to start out by base coating the entire piece in black. So let's just get started with that now. I always start on the bottom. I'm just going to move this up a little bit so I don't get black paint on it. And I use my big brush and start on the bottom. I always start on the bottom so that while I'm holding it in my hand and this is drying, I could start working my way up and then I'll be able to sit it down. All right, because once you paint the top part, you don't want to hold it in your hands and try to do the bottom then. So I always start on the bottom. You don't have to do inside. You can also put this over a tea light candle. Okay, I wouldn't recommend a real candle. It's always a little more dangerous and you should have it on a surface, other than just a lit candle being in the bottom of that. I think the tea lights work really well. So let's just get the bottom done first. And with base coating this in the black, you have to make sure that you don't have any white spots in the crevices. Okay, there's going to be a lot of color going over it, so if you miss a little spot on a raised area, color will cover it. But if you're in crevices and you miss a spot, it's going to show up white. And you're going to think that the whole thing is covered as you're painting it, and every time you turn it in a different direction, you'll see another white spot. So just get the brunt of it on right now. Wiggle that brush in the crevices. And get it covered as best possible. And while it's shiny, it looks like you've got all the spots covered, and then as soon as it dries, you'll see all the white spots that show. And you always turn it in different directions. But like I said, just get the brunt of it on now. You can see what I'm doing. I'll turn it around this way. I know a lot of you have been with me a long time, so you know how to base coat. And hopefully you know how to dry brush, because that's what we're going to be doing on the entire piece. Wiggle that brush, pull it out, pull the paint out as far as it'll go, and it'll dry fast for you too. If you glob it on, it's going to take forever to dry. And you want it smooth too, because when you dry brush something, on the crevice surface, it's not going to matter that much, but like on a flat surface, when you dry brush something, if your base coat has ridges in it, your dry brushing will attract those ridges and you'll see them even more. So you always want to make sure that your paint is smooth. Wiggle the brush in the crevices. And I keep going back because as I see a white spot, I go back over it and check it out. Make sure that I get in there. I was going to base coat half of this before I did the video, but I said I might as well just do it with you. And if you don't keep up with me, you can pause the video and you can go back to it. So there's no rush. You could take your time doing it. I just want to get through all the points that I want to make sure that you know about. And then you can always rewind and go back. The hardest thing about doing these videos is finding something to say the whole time I'm on them. So if I ramble, you'll understand why. Okay, so now I'm getting to the top. Now, if you look at the snow, how the snow is done on the two different houses, this one doesn't have snow completely over the top. This one has snow completely over the top. It's your choice. I like it kind of randomly. So this one we did a little bit more of it on there. But it's your piece and you could do it however you want. And because you have time and that you don't have to rush this, once you put the black on, you should let it dry a few minutes before you start doing the dry brushing, because the dry brushing is abusive on the surface with the stiff brushes and you're pulling at it. And if the paint is still a little damp or wet, you might lift the base coat up. So it's a good idea to put the video on, do your black, and shut it off for a while, let this dry, and then go back to it. I'm getting there. See, now I turn it over. I see some white spots. And like I said, when it's dry, you'll see those white spots a lot more than you will when it's wet. When it's wet, you really can't tell. And you should always turn it upside down, because always underneath areas is where those little white spots hide. Okay. Get into the little deer over here now. I'd like to thank all of you too for the great response that I've had in making these kits available to many different libraries. I have some libraries that I do Zoom classes with, and some libraries want to do the YouTube videos only. So I have right now, I think I have 4 or 5 videos up on YouTube. And if there's ever anything else that you see that you would like, just email me. You all have my email in the directions. So I can put a kit together for anything, even if I'm doing the piece for other libraries. I can always drop off kits for you. I'm also on Facebook under Rosemary Ceramics, and most of the time I post new pictures of new pieces up on Facebook, so you can see me there too. I think it's really good that we have this opportunity to get together in a different way now that everybody's stuck in the house. It's really been popular, even with the kids. I've done Zoom classes with the kids, and they're so cute, really adorable. They're running around their house showing me other things they've painted, and really, really cute. I like the interaction. It almost puts it on more of a one-to-one basis than when I'm teaching a class in the library, with the children anyway, because I get to see them all individually on the screen, and I interact with each one of them, you know, one at a time, and they're so cute. Okay, I'm working my way around, and you see, as I'm going around, I'm not waiting for the end to go back and check my white spots. I'm doing it as I, finish one area. I go back and look to see if there are any white spots in the other areas, because I don't want to have to give it a complete 2 coats. And even if you miss spots and you start dry brushing and you see a spot you missed, you can always take a little brush and just go in there and touch it up. I believe I gave everybody enough black paint, but I've only used 2 little wells in here, not even full, to do the whole piece. The paint goes really far, and I'm always afraid that I'm not giving you enough, so if you find that happen, and you need more paint, you just let me know and I'll drop paint off for you. I found that some of the jars I was using in the beginning were leaking, the larger clear plastic ones. So I'm not using those anymore. I'll probably use them just for the snow, because the snow wouldn't leak, it's too thick. And I found these more tubular bottles that were made for essential oils, and I bought those, and I think that they're better. They have a screw cap and everything, so I think that they're much better. I learned a lot, doing this, and that just when I learn everything and how to get this down pat, we'll be back in the library and I won't need them anymore. Who knows, maybe people will still want some kits, and I'll be able to pack up some kits even after. Amazon's at my house almost every day. Okay, so I'm just going to put another little drop of black out and go back and see under his face I didn't get. And turn it upside down. The good way of really seeing to see if you've missed any spots is to turn it upside down. Yeah, all in this tree. Now, another thing, I mean, I could tell you this later, but while I'm thinking about it, I'll mention it, because otherwise I forget things. If any of the holes are clogged, I make the holes with it's called a hole tool, it's a hole punch. And when I push it in, it's wet, the clay is wet. And then I pull it back, sometimes the piece pulls back in. I try to go back and check it 2 and 3 times, but if that happens, just take a toothpick, or if you have a pointy kind of a tool, like a needle tool or something, it should just pop right out. Sometimes they get stuck in there. Yeah, I'm not going to worry too much where the snow is going to go on the bottom, because that's going to be mostly white on the bottom. I think it's all white. And like I said, if you miss a spot and you see it when you're dry brushing, you just can go back and touch it up. And it's like the crevices, like if you have a spot on a raised area, it's not going to matter so much. It's the crevices that are going to remain black in the piece. Okay, so I think I'm going to stop at this point. And always put your brush in water until you can get to the sink and wash it really well. Take care of your brushes. These are pretty decent brushes, and they should last you a while. All right, so I'm putting that in the water. You should have paper towels and a water bowl handy, but once you start the dry brushing, you are not going to be using the water at all. The water is only to put this brush in until you can get to a sink. Because as fast as the paint dries on the piece, it dries in the hairs of the brush, and it's much harder to get out if you let it harden in the brush. So always get your brush wet. I don't even like letting the brush lay in water, but for now I will, okay? All right, so now we need dry brushing. Now you have your dry brushing brush. I probably have different ones here. I'll use a small one here, and we'll start with the blue. So, and you're going to need so little of your colors. You really do not need a lot of color. So this is how much blue I put out. I really don't, you don't need much. I might need more, but I don't think you're going to need that much more. Dry brushing is you put the tip of the hairs of the brush in the paint, not the whole brush. And then you're going to wipe it out. And not just like this. You want to wipe it side to side on the paper towel until you get it dispersed evenly in the hairs of the brush. Now, dry brushing is against the grain. If your grain is going this way, you dry brush the opposite way. Sometimes not just straight across, or you get lines. I do crisscross, but you want to keep your dark color showing in the crevices, and that's the black here. Okay, no matter what you're doing, what you're dry brushing, your darker color stays in the crevices. It's like an antiquing, like if you did something in all acrylics and you put an antiquing over it. Well, this is the reverse effect of that. Okay, so we're going to do the house. Now the house, the shingles are going this way, so I'm going to go the opposite way. So the shingles are going horizontally, I'm going to go vertically. Okay, so every time you dip, you put a little bit of paint, work it out on the paper towel, and move on. I mean, that's not going to be the color you're going to be finished with. You want your color to be a lot brighter, but you never try to achieve that color with the first coat. When you're dry brushing, the first coat looks very transparent, transparent, one of those. I think transparent is you see through clear, and translucent, or I don't even know, I'm not sure. One is you see through clearly, and one is you see through color. Okay, so you're not going to see the final effect, but just do a little bit at a time. And we do the background first, because if you hit the other areas, the other colors will cover it, so don't get too crazy about if you hit the candy cane or anything like that. And I'm going to be a little sloppier because I'm trying to do it upside down so you could see what I'm doing. So I'm going up from the bottom, and you never use the point of the brush. You use the flat side of the brush. Keep your brush on a little bit of an angle, and always twist it and turn it, because you have paint on both sides of that brush. So each time you use that brush, more paint will come out, depending on which way you twist it. So now I'm going back to what I did before. If you find that when you're dry brushing an area and you're doing it 2 and 3 times and the paint starts lifting, that means it's too wet. Just leave it alone for a while and go back to it later on. I'm going to turn it around so I can see what I'm doing. Okay, well the bottom looks pretty decent, but I have to do a little bit more to get the blue a nicer color. So this is what you're going to do on the blue all around the house. I don't necessarily have to do the whole thing. I just want you to be able to see and understand how to achieve this effect. Now here I'm doing it a second time on this area. Now see how much brighter the blue is getting on this side? And again, up from the bottom, because your shingles overlap, so I'm trying to get there. Now up this flat area down here, I'm going across it. But again, I'm trying not to get the blue in the crevices. Keep the black in the crevices. I do it 2 and 3 times. Like that's twice. And then I'll dip one more time. And I'll do it a third time. Now on the third time, because I'm not letting it dry, you can go around the whole house. By the time you finish the whole house, you'll be able to go back. It'll be dry enough. But me, I'm trying to do 3 coats at one time so that you can see how clean I am, huh? You could see how the application builds up the color. All right. All right, now this is the third time. And I think the third time is the charm. See that? Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Now, if you find that you don't like the way it's covering some of the shingles, you can go back in and just pounce a little bit of the blue on the shingle without going in the crevices. Just gently tap it on to give you a little more solid coverage on the shingle and still maintain that the black in the crevices, that antique look. Okay, so I'm going to go around and do the other areas that I didn't do, and again, up from the bottom with the side of the brush, up from the bottom. Now you see I have a lot of paint in the brush that time, a little bit more than I should have. Dry brushing, they say when you're dry brushing, you actually should see a powder form in front of you. That's really a dry brush. And because this is so wet, it is lifting up the blue. I can't really do any more on that. So I will swing around to the front and I'll start doing the blue on another area without dipping for more, because I had plenty in the brush just now. I didn't wipe out enough. If you make a mistake and you have way too much paint, just go back and put your black back on it again and let it dry. And anything is fixable. But it's important to get a lot of this paint out of the brush on the paper towel every time you dip. I'm trying to think where else I have blue. There's also blue on the blanket. See the blue on the blanket here? Right there. And everything is dry brushed. Okay, so the blue on the blanket is dry brushed. You just go against the grain. The grain is going this way, is going vertically, so you're going to go horizontally this time. And don't forget the blanket has 2 sides. On either side of the sleigh is a piece of the blanket. So I'll put that in there, and then I'll go back and do it a second time to get the color more vivid. So you're jumping around a lot. So you give all of your colors, a few seconds to dry. Now, it really would be great if you had quite a few different dry brushing brushes. So if you ever want to get any more dry brushing brushes, let me know. We'll go to the store. They are oxhair brushes. They're stiff white brushes. Here's one that you could probably see better. And it's these white stiff hairs. They get abused very easily. You're banging them on the bisque and they really wear out fast. But these are dry brushing brushes. Okay, I have some that are worn down tremendously and then they don't have that flexibility anymore like this one. But sometimes these little ones get into little areas that you may need. So it's good to have a bunch of different ones. Now, still with nothing in the brush, I just keep going back. And even when you think there's nothing in the brush, there's plenty in that brush. Okay, I'll hit the blanket again. I think the blanket goes across the top, like in the sleigh. You can get in here. See, in that groove, right? The blanket goes from one side to the other side and right across the middle, under the packages. And the second coat makes a big difference on the blanket too. I just have to do another coat on this area here. I don't know if there's any more blue on the piece. Nope, no more blue. So, and you see that little bit of blue I put in there? I still could do another whole house with what I have in there. You need very, very, very little color. And the big mistake a lot of people make when they're dry brushing is they want to achieve the color that they want with the first application, and that defeats the purpose of the effect of dry brushing. If you do that, then you might as well just paint it in the color. But then you lose the color in the crevices and you don't have that antique look. Do I have any blue by the door? No, on the sides here. These two sides with the holes to put the lights in, and the lights can just be glued in with Elmer's glue. Mine are not glued in, they're all falling out. So I just take Elmer's glue and I put a little bit on the tip of the stem. I dip it in and then I just push it in and they do dry. When you store these pieces, people every year when I had my store would walk in the door at Christmas time and I'd say to them, what do you need, lights for the tree? And they'd say, how do you know? I said, because no one stores their trees properly. If you have a tree, you have anything with these little lights, they can pop out. So always store it in a plastic bag and tie it up. So this way, if the lights fall out, they fall in the bag, and so you have them. I gave everybody extra, so you should have enough lights there. If you don't, you just let me know. And like I said, these two spots where the lights are going to go down the sides of the house, they're also blue. Now you could change it up, but I'm just going to walk you through what I've done. Okay, now I didn't mention this. When you do the blue, you have the lighter blue on this, you're going to be dry brushing white on the entire piece, the same way we're doing it here. When I do the trees in green, you're going to be doing the trees in white. Everything has white on it, everything. You can do a little bit on the bottom where you're going to put the snow, but you don't have to worry too much because the snow will cover it. I'd put a little bit on the top, okay, because I left some of the spaces without snow on it. And everything is just dry brushed in white. Everything. The bows, the ribbons, the candy canes, I went back and I kind of painted a little bit in, but very thinly, so that it doesn't look like it's really solid. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. Yeah, so on the candy canes, you're not doing much at all. All right, so that's pretty much done the same way. So I'm doing this one with all colors, and of course I didn't take a glass of water with me. And this one is done all in the same color. So no matter what I'm doing to this, you're doing the same thing, but all with the same color. Okay. Now, I said don't wash your brush in between colors. You really don't have to. We'll go to the green next. And you might have to wash it in between the red. I'm trying to think. So maybe we'll do the red next. The red may work better with the blue in the brush. Okay, I use the next color to clean my brush. So I'll wipe out the brush a few times with the color rather than use water, because you don't want a wet brush. So I pick up, now this time I'll pick up a good amount of red in the brush because I want the red to clean out the blue. And look how fast it turns, okay? I do it a couple of times till I get it to be a little brighter, because each time you do it, it's going to be a little brighter the way you want the red to be. So I did it like 3-4 times. Okay, so we have red on the, where do I have red? I have red on the sign and the door. And then I don't know, we could try to do the candy canes dry brushed. Okay, so the sign, because the sign has words in it, try to go against the grain. If you could see this North Pole, I did not go back in and paint that. I just dry brushed it. But if you find that you fill it in solidly, wait till the next day and just go back in there with a black magic marker. And you could work that right into the letters of the sign. If you find the marker's not working well, you have to keep wiping the tip, because the tip of the marker will pick up some of the acrylic on the felt tip. So you have to just keep wiping it out. But if you do it, if you go across it very, very, very lightly, very gently, you will keep the words showing. But everybody's hand is different. Oops, just got red on the bottom. Can you see that? So I was able to keep the letters showing. So I would want to do a little more red on that, but first I'm going to go around and do the other areas. We have the sign, we have the door. And when you do the door, I have a silver bow on here. You don't have to worry about the silver bow. The silver will cover the red, and then the green, the same thing. So don't get crazy. But your grain on your door is going vertically, so I want you to go horizontally. Now you have to start being a little neater and try not to get it on the blue. Do the center of the wreath, and as high up as you can on the door. And I didn't even dip for more paint. I did the sign and the door with the same brush load. And there's still more paint in here. So now I'm going to turn it around and I'm going to do my window. The window in the back has red on it. You don't have to worry about where the snow is going to be on the sill, because that will be covered. The red will be covered if you hit it. And the bow on there is silver and the garland is green, so we don't worry about that. So let's just get the red in there. Now, if you can do the candy canes with the dry brushing, you can try. Let's see how I did it. I have the red. Okay, just the tip. Because I like the way it looks dry brushed rather than painted. Once you start painting something and you're looking for a dry brush effect, you can tell right away, but that's up to you. I'm just doing it with the tip of the brush. You don't have to go all the way down to the blue. Can you see what I'm doing? I hope you can see. And that went on very well. Just with the tip of your brush. And you all have these the new dry brushing brushes I gave you. The tip should be pretty good on that. Try to do this facing you, but it's hard to see. Okay, can you see what I'm doing? Okay, I'm going to do it on the front. I'm going to do the same thing on the front candy canes. And I have not dipped for more red paint. This is still the first brush load I put in. I'm going to go across my sign again and look at the difference in the sign this time. And that's without dipping for more paint. I'm going to do the door again. I can't stress enough, not too much paint in your brush. Everybody wants to put too much paint on the piece. Now, if you want a real bright red door, you can go in and paint it, but then you lose the antiquing effect. All right, and now I'm going to do the candy canes the same way I did on the other side. Just on every other section. And now if you paint the white, you'll be able to cover some of that red if you go out of the lines a little bit. So just go back and forth. On every other section of the candy cane. I still have not dipped for more paint. I start out the candy cane with the white tips, and then so the red I start the second section, and then every other section going down. And now I'm going to dip, and I mean really nothing. Just a little dip of the paint. And what a difference. You see how much paint I have in my brush, and I have too much paint in my brush. See that right there? What a difference that makes? And all I did was tip it. Okay, so I've got that one done. So now I'm going to go back and I'm going to redo everything that I did, because it makes, I'm going to do this one side of the window and show you what a difference it makes on the second coat. I didn't do this side, I did that side. And then the same thing with the candy cane. I'm going to go back in and do a second coat. Now if you get it on the blue, you can always go back later or tomorrow or another time and just touch up your blue. Of course, I just did a section that was supposed to be white. It's supposed to be an effect, not a solid painted piece, not a solid, painted coverage. Okay, now that's the second coat on the candy cane, and it looks a lot better. Another thing to do is, if you want your candy cane to be more vivid, what I would do is I would put a little water in my brush and pick up a little bit of the red and water it down so it doesn't look like it's a solid paint area. And then You can kind of just wisp it in there, and don't go right to your edges. I just did that one section. You can do that too with your little brush. Just make it a little more vivid, get it a little neater. And this, I didn't even dip twice for that whole candy cane. See that? That looks a lot more vivid. I could do that on this candy cane also. It's just very little, and it's just kind of wisped across the top. It's almost like you're dry brushing with a tiny brush. And it's wet. I put water in it, put a little paint in it, wipe it out. What I do, I put water, I put a little paint, and then I wipe it out on my palette. If you don't have a palette, a piece of foil works very well. Or a tile. But I still like to dry brush the red on first, so you can get the effect, and then you don't paint all the way down. You just paint the parts that you dry brushed. Okay? Did I do that side? No, I don't think so. So let's do this side. A little water, a little paint, take it out. And that makes the candy canes pop a little bit more. And you could do the same thing with the white. I would pounce some white on with the dry brushing brush, but your brush must be completely dry. So if you only have one dry brushing brush, you wash it in soap and water, and then you really dry it really well. Just keep blotting it out on the paper towel until the paper towel absorbs all of the water out of it. Now I see a lot of little white spots, so I'm going to pick up, I see a little white spot right here under the eaves, so I'm just going to put a little black in there. Okay. All right, so now did I get all the red areas? Oh, we didn't do the sleigh. We have to do the sleigh with the red. I'll put a little bit of red in the brush again. And the sleigh is done in the red. And the red on the sleigh, that side, and that side. Okay. And then on the blue, you're doing, like I said, you're doing exactly the same thing across the door, across the sign, up from the bottom on the shingles. On the trees, you're going against the grain. The grain goes this way, you're going horizontally. And just pounce a little bit on the roof here and there, where you don't want to put the snow. On the reindeer, go across them with a very dry brush. Now the sled, if you notice, I didn't put any dry brushing on the sled. I wanted it to pop on its own so that the blue stands out a little bit more versus all the white dry brushing that we have. So I left that. So there's, but on the black one, you have to do the red. Don't forget to do both sides. And if you wanted some red packages in the sleigh, you also can do that. They don't have to be the silver. I'm going to do the red on the sleigh a second time. You could do red and green packages. You have quite a few packages up there. On the blue house, it's all silver. Not easy to do the sleigh after we have the blanket done. But you can always go back, like I said, wait another day or a couple of hours and go back and do your touch-ups. I want you just to learn how to do it, and then you can go back and fix everything up. Everything is fixable. So just so you have the idea of what to do on that. All right, so now I believe we have all the red in there. Did I miss any spots? I don't think so. So, okay, so now we're going to go to the green. And the green, you don't need much at all. A little bit of green. What you need more for is to clean your brush. So I'm going to turn this over so you can see what I'm doing. Now I pick up a lot more green in the brush than I want and wipe it out. And when you first wipe it out, it still has a lot of red in it. Do it a second time. It's more of a olivey green. I just said you're going to need more of the color to clean the brush. All right, so I'm going to leave it a little bit dark for the first coat. It doesn't really matter that much, but you see each time I did it how much cleaner it got. So now to do the tree, you go, see I have a white spot there, but we'll see after I dry brush it if it still shows. You're going to go against the grain side of the brush. I still see a little red in there, but eventually it'll disappear. Side of the brush, nice and flat. And in 2 seconds, that whole side is done. One coat. And that's how the one coat should look. It should not look really green like this looks yet. And because I used it all to clean my brush, I need a little more green. I'm going to pull out that brush and pull out as much of the red as I can with the paper towels. See, every time I do it, see how much brighter it's getting now? I'm going to go over that same area so you get the idea. If I could find where I did it. Oh, here it is. Okay. So now this is the second coat. Flat side of the brush, don't go in the crevices. To the other side of the tree. And don't forget to get this little area under the tree too, on the bottom here. Now you see the first coat here, how much brighter it is than when I did the other side. So you're eventually working the red out of the brush. The whole thing is you just really don't want to wet the brush because it makes such a difference. When I'm teaching in a class, if I walk over to someone and I pick up their brush to use it, I can tell right away if they put their brush in water when we're trying to dry brush. But then I have a funny story is that weeks later, or another class, I'll say to the people, why didn't you wash your brush? And they say, well, you told me not to. I'm like, yeah, but at the end of the day, when you're finished, you have to wash your brush. Otherwise, you ruin it. All right? So, all right, now besides that, you have your garland. Your garland going around the house. You have your wreath. What else we have? We have a little bit of a garland above the window. We have all this garland going around the trim of the house. So it's the trees, it's the garland here, garland around the trim of the house, and then the wreath in the front. That are all the green. Do the wreath very, very, very lightly, and you'll keep some of that color in the crevices. Okay. Always keep your piece down when you're working, because if you're working up in the air, you can't press on it. So always keep it down. And I try to lean my arm when I work, not to work up in the air because then you're shaky. Not as important when you're doing dry brushing, but if you're doing detail work, you always want to make sure you brace your arm, brace your hand on the piece, or brace your hand on the table, and keep your piece down, not up in the air. You're more shaky that way. Now, you can be sloppy up here because there's a lot of snow and white going to be going on the roof. just go against the grain. Whatever, if the grain is on an angle, you go the opposite way. You see how I did that one? So I'm going across, not up and down on this. Now I'll go back and do everything a second time. I'll go back to the first tree that I did. Now look at that on the bottom. See the difference in the color? So you could do it 3, 4, 5 times until it gets nice and bright. It's up to you how you want your tree to look. So the more you do it though, I'm doing half the tree so you can see the contrast. See the contrast between the top of the tree and the bottom of the tree? What a difference it makes. But it's a slow process. You just don't get that effect all at once. And don't forget, paint and wipe it on your paper towel every time. Okay, look at that. Doesn't that make a difference? Look at the other side of the tree versus that. Big difference. Try not to grab by the what are they? His antlers, because they're a little fragile up in here, and you could snap them off. They all came out of the mold perfectly. I've never had one break on me, but you know, it's always possible. If that happens, use a little crazy glue, let it dry, and then paint the black back over it. But just don't grab it by this because there's no support underneath it. You could snap it off. You know, I see a couple of little spots that I have of the white still showing. I'll go back with my brush later and I'll just pick up a little bit of black. I'll show you right now. And touch up if I see a spot in a crevice that is not going to get any other color on it. And just do a little with a little brush and touch up. Okay, but that tree looks really nice now. But you see, I'll still do that one more time. I'm going to swing around to this side though, and let's get everything else going. Do the little tree now. Dry brushing is a slow process of buildup of color with very little in your brush. Go across the garland again. What did I put under here? I just left the black under there. I was trying to figure out what I put under this area here, and I just left it dark, however it was. Whatever hit it, whatever color hit it. You could, I guess you could put the blue under there. You know, when I do this, I'm not really being careful about the roof because we put snow on the roof. But even though we're putting the snow on the roof, the snow is a little transparent, so I first go back up there and pound some white. getting there. I said every time you do it, it gets brighter and brighter and brighter. So don't be in a hurry, just take your time. And then the tree also has snow on the tips, so you don't have to worry too much about the tips. But you see, each time I do it, look how much nicer that is. Okay, so you have the idea. So you could just do it as many times as you want. I don't have to keep going over it. But I don't think it looks that bad. I think it looks pretty good. All right, so I think the next color we do is white. Now you have to wash your brush. You really need to wash your brush. And then, like I said, just get your paper towel and blot it and blot it and blot it to get all of the white out of the brush. I'm going to take a new brush because I happen to have it. So let me put some white out. Now, with the candy cane, I'm going to take a little bit of white and pounce some white on first, just to give the candy canes the definition. And then you can go back with that small brush with a little water and a little white in it, like I showed you before. So I'm just kind of tapping it on. And that's only the first coat. And I don't go right up to where the blue is. The whole idea is to leave black showing around all your colors. So even on the candy cane, I try to leave it, get as close as possible to the shingles, but leave black showing in between here. You want the black to show. I'll just do one candy cane so you have the idea of what to do. And then you take a little bit of water and a little bit of white paint, and then you can go back in just like you did with the red. And like I said, leave the black showing in the crevices. You always want it to have that antique effect. Okay, so I just went back in with a little water and a little white paint. Didn't bring it all the way to meet the blue, just kind of left the black showing on all around the edges of it, and just did the raised area of it, the candy cane. So that's how you're going to do all the candy canes. And then when you do the white on the top, now I have, we were supposed to do red on the chimney. I didn't get to the red on the chimney, so don't forget to do the red on the chimney. And if you washed your brush already, you can go back and do it another time. So white, boy, my voice is really going today. White in your brush, and if you want to do the whole entire roof with the snow, I don't know if you have enough to do that, and the snow is transparent, so I would definitely pounce a little white. So just pounce some white on the roof like this all around, with nothing in the brush. It's still a dry brush effect. You have to dip quite a few times, pounce it out. Now that time I put a lot more on there. You're going to have snow over most of it, so it's not such a big deal as to how you put it on. I still wouldn't paint it on in case you leave some spots with the snow showing. But you get the idea, right? Just pounce it on. And after we do that, we'll paint the silver. Oh, we have to do, I got it on the deer. Just, I don't know if I've ever told you this before, but your saliva has enzymes in it, and it's very good to get paint off. Like I got a little bit of paint, the white up on the deer, I just licked my finger and took it off, but you don't have to do what I did. You could put a little saliva on a paper towel. It rubs right off. And if it doesn't, just repaint the black on there. I'm just going to do one side so that you can get the effect of the snow being on there. If you pull it, it's going to show. It's easier just to pounce it on. Gives it more of a snow look also. And then you'll have some snow up here on top of the chimney. Now you don't have to do that where the trees are. And you don't have to do it where I put snow on the sleigh or anything, little snow I have on the reindeer. You don't have to do it there. And even on the windowsill ledge here, you can put a little bit if you want, but your snow is pretty much going to cover that. But if your snow is too transparent and the black doesn't cover with it, put a little white underneath it first. It helps. Okay? That's the back windowsill there. And then your chimney top. Okay, I think that's enough because once the snow goes over, you really won't see it anymore. Down here, I don't think it's necessary, but then again, it might take too much snow to cover, so it might be a good idea to pound some white down here also. There's a couple of different kind of snows, and one of the snows is very thick, but then it doesn't have the glitter in it. So the snow I gave you has the glitter in it, and that's a little bit more transparent. So it might be a good idea if you have enough white there just to pound some white on first. And that will allow you to just build up the snow and not have to worry about the black showing through. Okay, so just like that down there too. All right, and then don't forget your candy canes. So now this section here I almost painted on. You could see it. I don't like the way that looks. See that? I like it more pounced. But you're doing it, so it's, you know, it takes practice. One thing with ceramics is what you see is what you get with acrylics. When you're doing glazing, that's a different story. It's like opening Christmas presents every time I open the kiln, even 43 years later that I'm doing ceramics. I still can't wait after I fire a kiln to go down the next day and open the kiln and say, oh my God, look at that. I can't wait. It's still exciting. That's silver, the windows are silver. Okay, we could do the deer now. And the deer is done in exactly the same way. It's a little dry brushing on it. Of course, I don't have another brush, so I'll use my white brush. Clean the brush out a few times with the brown, the lighter brown, and just give them, again, against the grain. And if too much goes on there, just keep pulling it out. Like I had a lot on there when I first started just now, but I just keep pulling it and spreading it out. Look at those deer, how nice they pop up. And the second time you do it, it's even better. You could give them red collars. I didn't, but you can. You can go around and give them a red collar. The eyes, you could do with the black with the toothpick. Toothpick is great to do these little eyes, but do that at the very end, because dots stay wet a little longer than when you're putting the paint on, painting it or dry brushing it, so you don't want to smear it. So do that last thing you do. Okay, that's one coat. Go back and do a second coat. That was with one brush load. One little dip, and I'm dipping in the cap, so I'm using nothing. But everything is done twice because it gives it a lot more definition the second time around. Okay, so you have the idea, and you can keep doing it as many times as you want until it's more vivid. So the brown goes on the same way that all the other colors go on. All right, so now the silver, you need more your smaller brush, and most of you should have this brush. And I know I'm not talking to you about the blue, but you're just dry brushing the whole tree and the whole house in white. Now when we do the silver, you can do the silver with the small brush also, to do the ribbon, to do the windows. And let's see. I did the bow here and then the window here. And then I did collars on the reindeer. I did collars on the reindeer in silver. And silver runners on the sleigh and a little silver accent on the edges of the packages. Now, you could paint them solidly. I just kind of dry brushed a little silver on them. So we need silver. Okay. Now, let's go and do the bows. Now this you're painting on, but even though I'm painting it on, I'm trying to leave a little bit of black showing, like on the bow, on the top of the bow. I don't know if you can see that, but you see the top of the bow there? Where is it? Right there? There's that little teardrop shape at the top of the bow. I try to leave the black showing in that. If you've covered it, you can always go back with a little brush and put a little black in there later on, if you want to have more definition on the bow. Oops, got it on my window. Now, I think you can see it better now. You see the bow? How I left some of the black in that oval? Like it would be the space on the loop part of the bow. And like I said, if you've covered it, just take a little brush, put it in a little bit of water, a little bit of black, blot it out. You don't want it dripping. And just kind of swish a little black back in there again, just to give you the definition in the top of the bow. Oh, here we go with the saliva again. Okay, and then that has snow on it. Okay, and then the bow on this side. So it's pretty much painted on, but you still want to keep some definition in the bow. I'm doing the bow on the door now. And I think I did the doorknob in the silver too, didn't I? Yes, I did. The doorknob is also in the silver. Okay, and then actually the porthole windows, I'm going to go back to my dry brushing brush and try to do it not so solid. because it does have some detail. Well, it's pretty much going on solid though. Whatever you're comfortable, use whatever brush you're comfortable with. There's that one. Now, that little bit of paint I put in my dry brushing brush, the silver, is doing both portholes. So the whole idea is just not to put a lot of paint on the piece. And to build your color up slowly. Okay, and then I have it on the runners of the sleigh. And the runners of the sleigh, it's easier to do with your dry brushing brush because you just lay it flat and go across it. Okay, let me see if I can show you this. Go across on an angle and it'll keep the black showing in the crevices. If you lay your brush flat, and go across it like that. I did this little hump here in silver behind the reindeer. And then you can take the silver and you can accent your packages. They could either be solid, like I said, you could do them, you have red on the packages, on the sleigh, so I didn't want to do red on the packages. I did silver, but you can also do a green package, but then again, you have the green tree there, so. And these don't have to be solid. I did it with the dry brushing brush. Okay, just with the dry brushing brush do that. Now, what did I miss? What did I miss? You also can do silver on the collars. On the blue one, there's silver on the collars. On the blue one, there's silver dry brushed on the packages, the runners of the sleigh, the bows, the windows. That's about it. The candy cane stays the blue, but every other section gets the white. The door gets a lot more white. And, I try to leave some contrast where some areas are a little deeper blue and some areas are more white. This is not a hard piece to do. The blue one is really simple. All right, I think I have mostly everything done. I'm not going to worry about going around the other side with everything. You get the idea of how to pounce the white, where you're going to put the snow. Above the door, you need to pounce a little bit of white over here above the door. And I think we have everything on there right now. So let's get the snow out. Now, the snow can ruin your brushes. So just use, if you have old brushes, use them. If you have to use your good brushes, make sure you clean them at the end. And when you clean your brush, don't ever bang them in the bottoms of bowls. Always rotate them, swoosh them, rotate them. And when you wash it with soap and water, try to always reshape it and pull it back to the original shape, and that will help keep it better. And another way to wash your brush is put soap in it, grab the hairs on the tip, push in and wiggle. That gets rid of the paint in the ferrule. And sometimes you'll use a brush and every time you use it, it gets shorter and shorter because the paint builds up down here where the metal meets the hairs of the brush. So if you hold it and with soap in it and you push in and you wiggle the soap, it helps to get it out of here, out of where the ferrules meet the hairs. Okay, so I'm going to use this little brush that I was using before. And the way you do snow is scoop it up. Scoop it up and just pounce it on. See with that little bit of white under there? That really helped because I think I'd need a lot more if I didn't have that white under there. You would see through the snow. There's the snow. Now you could put a little snow on the edges of your windows. Okay, so I did it on the, I guess you could see it here on this side. It's easier. All right, see the windows, the sill, and then the two little windows. I have it hanging out of the port windows. Scoop it and just plop it down. And wherever it lands, okay? But let me show you this way. So I put a little bit there. Now on the trees, the same way. Pick up a little bit in your brush and just try not to fill the holes in. Just put a little bit on the edges of your tree. Now the snow's going to take a while to dry, so make sure you have everything else done first before you do the snow. And even if you need touch-ups, you can always go back and do it the next day. But just do your snow on the tips of the trees like so. You're going to pounce it up here on the chimney. But get a nice scoop of it. Roll it off your brush and pounce it around till it gives you nice coverage. Make sure you get a good application of that white on there first, because there's, like I said, this is very transparent. I even have a little bit on the tips of the antlers, a little on the packages, on the trim of the, right here, on the trim of the sleigh. Okay, let's see where else we have it. The steps in the front. In the front, the steps, you kind of can leave the black there. You don't have to put white there, and just kind of dry brush it down, the snow. The steps can remain the black. They don't have to look like the snow going all around it. And over here, like I didn't do white, so you would need a lot of snow to make sure that you don't see the black coming through. But it's not bad. But I think it'd be easier coverage if you put a little bit of white pounced around it. Okay? And then you could let it dry. If you have more snow, you can go around and do a second coat. Like I said, you do with the toothpick, you can do the eyes. With the little brush, you can do the collars. You can put a little bit of snow on his antlers, a little bit on the edges of the packages. And I think we're good. I think we're good. And you can put snow wherever you want to put snow. But it's always a good idea when you're working on something for quite a while like this to let it dry and look at it hours later or look at it the next day. You have a different perspective when you look at it at another time than when you're trying to get it done and you're busy working on it, and it gets a little frustrating after a while. So just put it aside. I mean, I did this quick and kind of sloppy, but I think it still looks fairly decent. And I was really just doing it just to educate you on how to do it, but you'll be able to take your time and do it at your leisure. Okay, so let me show you. If anybody wanted to take a picture of the screen, you can, so that you have a picture. If that doesn't work out, email me and I can send you a picture of the houses. I can send you front and back if you'd like. Okay. There's also snow on the blue, glitter snow on all of the blue. The wreath, I did more white on the wreath here so that the wreath would stand out a little bit more. And I want to show you some things I was working on for next year. I've already booked quite a few classes. This is a little gnome, and I just did him up for Valentine's Day. And then I did the big one. And at first when I was doing him, he looked like he was for Christmas. But I'm trying to work on him. I'm still tweaking him. But here he is with all his little hearts all over him. So I'm thinking of offering this next. So if anybody's interested, you always can get in touch with Chris at the library. We have no dates set or anything yet. I'm just working things up right now. So that's another cute piece. Okay. All right, I think that's it. So like I said, if you have any questions, please email me. Let me know any problems, any paint problems, any leakage problems in the jars. Like I said, I'm learning as I go along. And I want to make everybody happy. So if you have any problems, you let me know right away so I can take care of it. And I hope you all have a very, very happy Thanksgiving and happy holidays, and hopefully we'll have a better year next year and we can all get back together live. So again, thank you, and thank you all for taking part in my classes. Bye.